think it was Andy Edwards. You know Andy? It's like he was on Beato. It's like a English commentator on music.
Andy Edwards. Never heard of him.
People mention Clapton, who of course is a great wizard. Always it's number one is Hendrix. Most people have Hendrix as number one because he was so revolutionary.
Well, nobody's going to say Allan Holdsworth.
Would you do me a favor?
Certainly. What is it?
I may not be Dr. Freud or a male brother or one of those French upstairs girls, but could I take another crack at it?
All right, if you insist.
Anything this time?
I'm afraid not.
Eric Weinstein's on Joe Rogan. They're talking about energy, nuclear fusion, and what would happen if someone did discover nuclear fusion. Because it would change the whole dynamic of geopolitics, wouldn't it, if that was the case, Eric Weinstein's really clever, and usually I don't understand what he's saying, but he's on Joe Rogan, and Joe's not clever like Eric, so maybe he'll explain it to Joe in a way that he'll understand, and also I'll understand. So it's a bit boring, but I thought I'd watch it, how it is.
So this is the question about the far right tail, like the extreme right tail.
He mentioned the word far right. I mean, come on, what's he talking about? Why is he mentioning the far? What's that got to do with it?
Tail of human intelligence and ability. And if you think about certain areas where you have a dominant figure, Rodney Mullen in skateboarding, for example,
don't know
what percentage of all tricks derive from Rodney Mullen? You couldn't have stopped skateboarding, but you could certainly have held it back by getting to Rodney Mullen.
I don't understand this metaphor. They need to give it to me in the way I understand. I don't know who Rodney Mullen is. Who is he? Skateboarder? I don't know what he's done for skateboarding. Got no interest in skateboard. This is an analogy or metaphor. Excuse me. It's not working.
Right? When it comes to, guitar, the amount of impact that Jimi Hendrix and Eddie Van Halen had.
Now they're talking. Now I couldn't understand it. So nuclear fusion, if somebody came along and invented nuclear fusion, it would be like Jimi Hendrix and Eddie Van Halen. Yeah. They didn't invent fusion, though, did they? I mean, it was more Larry Coryell that invented fusion. I am a bit confused. Anyway, let's carry on.
It's just wildly disproportionate. When I was doing my podcast, I was really excited to do Rodney Mullen and Eddie Van Halen together. I wanted to get them, totally different sports. But those two guys are sort of the same. They just created so much vocabulary, you can't even imagine it. And
Eddie Van Halen doesn't get the credit he deserves either.
Oh, talk to me.
Well, it's just Van Halen became Van Hagar, and it became a different kind of music. And I think a lot of the original hardcore fans left, but I think it got more popular with Sammy Hagar, but it was a different kind of music. And not that it's bad, but it's different. And then I think a lot of people just went, nah. But if you go to, some of the big Van Halen with David Lee. I think Van Halen with David Lee Roth in his prime was literally a perfect band. It was phenomenal. They were the shit when I was in high school. I mean, everybody had Van Halen on their notebooks. They made the VH.
I remember it.
They were awesome. And they were so good. And Van Halen and Eddie specifically could shred so hard. And some of those classic riffs. I just don't think in the mainstream world he got the credit that he deserves.
I can remember when I was watching Back to the Future, and there's a reference in that where in the 1950s, which I suppose is when they are really experimenting with nuclear fission, and they got the atomic bomb and all the sort of Cold War. And they were worried about the aliens, weren't they? Because they thought the aliens were going to be communist, but it ended up that we were the communists in Star Trek. And so Michael J. Fox dresses up as a communist alien and scares his dad into having sex with his mom by pretending to be an alien, by playing Eddie Van Halen. That's pretty culturally heavy for a guitar player to reach that far. I mean, I can't imagine Allan Holdsworth cropping up in Back to the Future. Can you? Now, I'm really having to try. I mean, it's probably because I'm not clever like these people, but what they're saying is someone will come along, a scientist. It'll be like Eddie Van Halen, but he'll only be able to invent jazz fusion, or was that nuclear fusion? I'm getting confused. If he'll only be able to invent fusion if he's got a mate like Dave Lee Roth rather than Sammy Hagar.
I see it differently.
Well, people mention Clapton, who of course is a great wizard. Always it's number one is Hendrix. Most people have Hendrix as number one because he was so revolutionary.
Well, nobody's going to say Allan Holdsworth.
Yep.
Nobody's going to say Allan Holdsworth. And then Eric Weinstein, right? That's how clever he is. I think he plays a bit of guitar as well. But it's only a brain like Eric Weinstein that can even handle Allan Holdsworth. This is amazing because what Eric's done is he's brought this into the mainstream. He's brought this onto Joe Rogan. Can you imagine if they play some Holdsworth now? And Rogan, if he's used to Eddie Van Halen and Jimi Hendrix, he's just going to go... And that literally will be like fusion. But this will be like podcasting fusion. His head's going to explode when he hears that, isn't it? You know, when he's faced with a genius at that level. This is so exciting.
You don't know who he is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, my point is that
he doesn't know who he is.
David Lee Roth kept Eddie Van Halen from becoming Allan Holdsworth. And that's...
Who's Allan Holdsworth?
Oh, it's interesting. Allan Holdsworth...
Tell him, Eric.
Like, if you talk to your hot shit guitarist friends...
Yeah.
They will very often...
Yeah.
Like, everybody will just pause and say, well, yeah, that's Allan Holdsworth.
That's Allan Holdsworth.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like listening to a modem for normal human beings.
Yeah.
Right? That's why it's just not popular. And so Eddie Van Halen was
Who did he play with?
I don't know, Allan Holdsworth.
Just by himself?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can we just actually weirdly put Allan Holdsworth, just like...
They're going to put him on. They're going to put him on the Rogan show.
We'll edit it out of the episode because...
No, don't edit it out.
Okay, why don't you...
Let the people hear it.
We'll play it, and then we'll just come right back to it.
All right, let's do it.
Oh, it's exciting.
Jamie. Is there any specific song that you'd like?
No, at all. It's all mind-melting.
Checking to see if he's got anything popular we might have known, so I could tap into that, but I don't see nothing.
Like, is there a song that you like that you could recommend?
Yeah, Eric, go on, say.
I just listen to a certain amount of it, and then I don't listen to it again. I'm not at that level where I need Allan Holdsworth.
Eric Weinstein is not at that level where he needs Allan Holdsworth. That's why he's only knowledgeable in the areas of plasma and not fusion. Does he not understand this? There he is. He could have maybe, saved the world from, a carbon-based energy apocalypse just by listening to Allan Holdsworth. Even he can't take it. He knows, though. He can't take it. That's so funny.
Okay.
What does that mean?
No,
What does that mean? Thank you, Jamie.
I'd rather see some guy flying through the air with, like, his pants on fire than listen to Allan Holdsworth.
Okay, here we go.
Live.
Come on, then.
1984.
Come on, Alan.
Live in Tokyo.
Tokyo Dream.
Come on, Alan. Now, this ain't going to do it.
See if you can use the histogram to figure out, like, where the nerds are going.
Forward.
Histogram?
Yeah, it shows you, like, where people spend their time on a video.
Yeah, forward later on. Go on, forward later on. It ain't going to work. Forward it. Joe, forward it. Get your mate, get the minion to forward it. Joe, get your minion to forward. This ain't going to do anything.
It's so louder.
Nothing's going on right now.
Nothing's going on.
Jamie.
You've heard
Watch
this
this
before,
now.
though?
Yeah.
What is that? A bass? What is the other guitar I'm hearing? Because it is not matching up with what that bass player seems to be playing.
Not matching up. What's going on? What's he mean not matching up? What's he mean not matching up? What's going on? I don't understand
Did
this.
you hear that extra guitar?
That's a bass, mate. It's called a bass.
Slower.
Yeah, but a guitar, extra guitar,
I don't know.
that's lower, it's called a bass. Joe, come on. He's just staring. Come on, Joe.
It's a bass thing.
So
Doesn't sound like he's playing.
my guitarist friends will just salivate.
I'm
And
salivating.
I'll look at them.
Look, do you see it's all saliva?
No offense, but it's,
They're laughing at him.
it sounds like jazz, right? So it's like jazz guitar.
Yeah.
Like, there's no
I
singing.
apologize, sir.
There's no singing.
If I
Poor old Eric.
no more Jerry. I've had it.
Oh, Jimmy.
Jamie, you were gonna have so much nerd hate.
I mean, I've
He gets that every day.
people will
Okay.
agree with me too, I believe.
Oh, 100%. More will agree with you.
that was
I'm on
my
your camp.
That was my point. I think David Lee Roth had some comment about if it weren't for me, the brothers would be playing biker bars in the far valley or something.
The world's terrible, isn't it? You know. And we sit and we talk about how we can solve the world's problems. You know, that here they are trying to solve the energy problems on the earth, because if we don't, there'll be too much carbon and the sea will all rise up, won't it? And it'll all be like watery. And all the people will end up all stood together, you know, on one rock, and we're not going to get on, are we? The Muslims will try and take us over, and they'll be ready for something like that. So they'll be chopping our heads off, and not all of them, because most Muslims are perfectly nice people who aren't extremists, but they only need a few of them to start chopping heads off, and then we're done for, you know. But then I watch this and I think, you all bloody deserve it. Because if you can't get Allan Holdsworth, right, if you can't understand the beauty and majesty of that musician, if you can't understand what he did for music, if you can't understand there would be no Eddie Van Halen if it wasn't for Allan Holdsworth, you wouldn't have modern jazz, you wouldn't have modern guitar, you wouldn't have any of it, right? You would not have it. But it's not even that makes him so great. It's because he is a testament to a person with an aesthetic vision, standing on their own and going for what they feel. And when you present beauty like that to the average person, they just start laughing. And I tell you something, this species deserves to die. You deserve to die. And if you are laughing, you really deserve to die. And there'll be a few of us that understand. But in the end, we must sacrifice ourselves on the altar of your stupidity, ignorance, and inability to be able to appreciate beauty. Human beings are done for. They are done for. That's the bottom line, right? If we can't advance to this point aesthetically, if we can't grasp this, and you've got all these dumb idiot people that when faced with that, maybe they don't understand. I don't expect them to understand it, but don't laugh at it. Don't go, there's no singing, and want some David Lee Roth bloke. I love David Lee Roth, but the idea that Eddie Van Halen would have been better with David Lee Roth jumping off to Chad Wackerman or Gary Osborne's drum kit and doing the splits, the idea that would somehow make it better. No, what he do is provide some sort of circus and buffoonery for you to be able to latch onto it and go, yeah, no, I can appreciate the first guitar playing. The world's stupid, and this is the problem with music, is that in any other field, and this is why Eric Weinstein, he thinks he's clever, but then he brings his analogy over. He brings his analogy over to guitar players. It doesn't work. You know why? Because we want the fusion scientists to know their stuff. We want the Allan Holdsworth in there. It's not the Jimi Hendrix we want. It's not even the Eddie Van Halen we want. We want the Allan Holdsworth in there, right? Because he's going to come up with something that no one's ever thought of before. But the stupid people, they want him there, right? But they don't want it on guitar. They want something that's easy and palatable in 4/4, where the keys never change and the notes don't go past too fast, and they can sort of tap along to basically what is a nursery rhyme, while some bloke up front jumps up and down and does the splits to keep them happy. That is human beings. They're wretched and rubbish. And all this stuff that I've railed against, all the religions, all this idea that, you know, this Christian idea that we've been damned from the outset. Oh, it's making me. I think I've got consumption, actually, trying to deal with this. I'm not going to last that long if I have to deal with this sort of stupidness of people. And the problem is in the field of physics, in the field of nuclear fusion, or the field of weather or climate, everybody wants the experts. I get it all day long. You haven't substantiated what you're saying. Where's the experts? Where's the experts? I'm only an expert in one thing. It's music, right? And then when I come on and try and explain this, they all come on, don't they? Oh, you don't understand it. You don't understand feel. You don't understand it. Holdsworth just a random bunch of notes. Do you not ever think that the people who love it, right, with their elitist knowledge, experience, ability to put their head in, musicians who can hear all the notes and hear all the chords, you would not thought that we might be picking up on something that you don't get. You're not able to go, you know, something's like reading a book on nuclear physics. I don't really get it. I have no problem with people liking dumb stuff. That's fine. You know, I like dumb stuff. We all like some dumb stuff. But when something comes along like that, people will go, that is obviously incredible music that I don't understand, because when it comes to music, I'm quite stupid. I like what I like, but in future I have learned to keep my mouth shut and keep my opinions to myself. And when Andy comes on here saying things that seem counterintuitive about music, next time, rather than having to go at him and saying he's not right and saying all that in the comments, I'll zip it unless I've got something constructive to say, and I will bow to the fact that he knows more about music than me. And I think that those of you who think that is true, put it in the comments. I'm going to try and create a hierarchy here, because the whole point is, as Weinstein said all this, we don't like hierarchies anymore. That's why they don't like Allan Holdsworth, right? Because when people don't like hierarchies, I'm bringing the hierarchy back. I don't want any hierarchies to do with anything nasty like politics or wealth, or I don't want any of that. I'm not interested in that. But when it comes to knowing about music, can't we just have a nice solid hierarchy, right? And rather than it going up to what the people think are the best guitarists of the world, which is bloody Dave Gilmour, right, for most people, right? He's a good guitarist. But let's be straight. Let's get this objective. This is objectively correct. No, it can't be objective, Andy. There's no such thing as objectivity in art. It's all subjective. No, it's not. You're wrong. There would be no utility for art if it wasn't grading quality. The thing is, quality isn't quantity. Beauty is not truth. I've said this over and over again. Okay? Now, the one way you could judge quality in art is, I'm afraid, to go to those people who know and study it, know the most about it, and listen to them. So you have great musicians doing things that are quite esoteric, and then you have people just like everything else. That's what Eric Weinstein is. Eric Weinstein comes down from, well, he hasn't got a bloody teaching job anymore because they didn't like him because he was like a far right type. But anyway, he comes down from his position and he comes on to Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan's like the common man in the pub, isn't it? Yeah, I'll just talk about anything. I don't know. I'll listen to what anyone's got to say, you know. And that's what he does. Sits there like that. He looks like him. All the blokes out at the pubs around here, they all look like Joe Rogan. That's all. They all go down the gym, you know, do all the bloody take all the supplements or whatever, get all their muscles all big like that, and then go down the pub and talk about Van Halen. That's what they talk about. In this country, it's more Oasis and stuff like that. So slightly different. Then Eric Weinstein, that nobody understands what he's talking about, he comes down, he sits on there, and he tells us about it. Right? That's allowable in every other field. Yes, but Andy, physics is about truth, isn't it? It's about numerical truth in essence, right? But there is a moral and aesthetic aspect to it, and that's what they're talking about here. What would happen if somebody did invent fusion, right? Not jazz rock fusion, obviously that's Laurie Coryell and Gary Burton and all that lot. No, if they were to invent nuclear fusion, the whole world is set up like this, you know. You've got the Middle East, they're creating oil. America, it's got its own oil. We've got oil in the you know, out in the North Sea, but we can't go and get it because we're British for some reason, so we have to go and try and, you know, get Ed Miliband to power the country off his wind. Right, so that's what we're going to do. We got a bright future, Ed, with Ed Miliband's wind. So this is getting political, you see. And you think, why has this got to do with Allan Holdsworth? Here, on this video, the two worlds collide. Right, because we have to be able to judge quality, Okay. Now, as I stop pushing that some of your the more postmodern audience's buttons, which I do because I know you're there and I know what you like. So I've just been sat there going, bamp, 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 push it over again, over and over again. Oh, they can't be objective quality. They can't be objective quality. I don't even believe there's objective truth. There's definitely not objective quality. If I like it, then it's good. If I like it, then it's good. If you can't just say that you're better because you got no more about something or you feel something different. How can you prove you feel something different? How can you prove that, you know? So that is the world we live in. That is the mindset that has come at us from the establishment. Here it is, you know, and this is why it's interesting that he went. If you go to that far right thing, the reason why people call me far right was a really simple thing, is because I believe that art is elitist. It has to be, because it's dealing with aspects of quality, and we do need to be able to understand quality. Now, the problem with quality is there's a schism between the two, because there's what I know and what I love and what I like, you know, right? That is subjective, and that's what the postmodernists argue. They're the only ones exist, is this subjective idea of quality. But the problem is that means that someone who's a Nazi, or someone who's a serial killer, or someone who's a child abuser, their idea of what's quality and good might be different to ours. And what they class as beautiful or what they class as not beautiful is different. And from that, they create a moral code which we go, that's not so good, because I believe that morality comes from aesthetics. It's about what we think is good. What we think is beautiful or ugly then transfers to what we think is right or wrong. And there is an aspect between truth and beauty, and it's in the area of right and wrong, right, where we have to negotiate this. So I'm sat here and I'm making a case that I've got an elevated knowledge about music, so my opinion is really important. Whereas the truth is, this video, that part of the video was just representing one aspect of this. So my argument is that I have a subjective view which is better than everybody else's, because I'm a knowledgeable musician and I've studied music and I know my harmony and chords and scales and all my weird rhythms, and I've played Holdsworth stuff. But also you can watch this video and see Andy actually has a massively emotional response to Holdsworth. I get the most strongest emotional response, and this is the truth now, is from Allan Holdsworth for me. I think of any music. It really is. And you may go, I thought it was just nonsense. I just thought Andy was appreciating it because it was clever. And then you may shift and go, well, I'm going to put my ears on. And the fact is, it's always worth giving an artist that is great as Allan Holdsworth a couple of weeks. Put the headphones on and listen to him over and over and over again. For me, it wasn't Allan Holdsworth. For me, it's Bitches Brew by Miles Davis. I hated it and didn't like it, and listened to it over and over and over again. And then one day the whole thing opened up. It was like I'd taken drugs, and the veil, you know, of my prejudice veil was lifted, and suddenly I realised how to listen to it. And it's knowing how to listen to it and what's going on. Okay? But this is all my subjective view. And believe me, when you come to a YouTuber's channel like mine, that's what you get as a subjective view. Okay, so how does art work? Well, art works as an artist comes along and they go, this is my subjective view of what beautiful is. Holdsworth does that. He throws it out into the world. And the thing with Holdsworth is he's one of these artists, really weird, that most people go, nah, it just sounds like noise to me. Eric Weinstein described it as like a modem. Like a modem. No, just like a modem. It sounds like the beautiful notes, the most beautiful tone, with the most beautiful phrasing, the most beautiful, effortless ease in which he gets the notes. It's like he's breathing his soul. It's not like a modem. What he means is it sounds like a modem to idiots. Right? This music does not transmit, like Madonna does or Prince or whatever, an aspect of art and music which is general, which everyone gets. And that we need that. We need that art to go, this is what we all like. And there are moments you can see when terrible things happen, you know, where people might be having a vigil for some terrible event that somebody's happened, and then they'll start singing a song and everyone will bring that together. And that's really, really important. But in terms of absolute beauty, there are musicians that put this out into the world, and only a few people can reach it and understand it. And you who don't understand it, I'm afraid there should be at least an aspect. I know I'm arguing at 100%, but that is because I represent the Andy Edwards subjective view. You can tell by the way I've changed my voice and moved away from the comedy that was attached to this, that now I'm talking to you very seriously. All right? And there needs to be, in the same way as we could go to a philosopher like Wittgenstein or Nietzsche and go, I don't really understand what he's on about, but I respect that he did something and said something that was so important in terms of truth and beauty. Both of them did, and they both represents the either end of the dialectic of how truth and beauty, Wittgenstein being the great philosopher on truth who stopped at the border of beauty, and Nietzsche being the readjuster of beauty in the Western world back to a pre-Christian idea of beauty, which had heroism and had an aesthetic feel for elitism and power, which is something I'm arguing with here. And with all the terrible things that happened in the 20th century, that can feel like a very dangerous area to go into. But Holdsworth, for me, does not represent that. That Holdsworth would be the tonic for that Superman idea of power that Nietzsche has, because of the vulnerability that is inherent in his music. It's incredibly vulnerable. He sacrifices his mental state, because his mental state has to be propped up by expressing this beauty. And one of the most fascinating personalities in music is Allan Holdsworth. I, on this channel, have tried to explain that to the average man in the street, and I've been met with hostility. There's a whole series of videos where I've explored that hostility. And I'm not going to do that here, because it really is a reaction from certain factions that want to see Allan Holdsworth as almost like a perfect godlike person with no faults whatsoever. But the man had great faults. But within those faults, this beauty emerges, and it really is an objective beauty. But true objectiveness hides itself. This is the idea of the esoteric. And so I felt that with this hitting the mainstream, I needed to come on and provide my dot in the yin-yang of this dialectic, and said that what emerged for a few minutes, and those people did not understand, Joe and his mates, right? And they showed how much I mean, when the guy says, what's that? It's a bass. Well, he's playing things that got nothing to do with it. No, they've got everything to do with it. They are wrong. Anybody who knows about it, they are categorically wrong. You might not like it, but their description of what is happening shows that they have no understanding of this type of beauty. Right? And in that, we learn something about human beings. Hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you on the next one.
Do not give what is holy to the dogs, nor cast your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet and turn and tear you in pieces.